Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Keep the Mic On. I am Simply Sherry. You know, every week since the start of the pandemic, we have been in here in conversation with some amazing artists of all disciplines, and definitely doing all amazing things. My week is called From Behind the Microphone, where we take a moment to get to know the person behind the art. And I'm definitely going to keep saying that because my November feature is a whole different type of artist that we're getting into. Please let your friends know that we're here on Facebook and on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. And if you're on our YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, comment, let YouTube know that this is something that you wish to see more of in the future. Right now, I'm going to take a moment and kick it to the one, the only Girl Genius.
Hey y'all, I am Girl Genius, also known as Danielle Reed. Either way, I'm good with answering. I might even answer hey you. Who knows? We'll see what kind of mood I'm in. Anyway, I am also one of the hosts here. My week is called Let's Talk About the Book, where I get a author and I pick their brain about their book, their process, their writing, all the little fun, nuancy things that go into publishing a book. That's what I do. I am also excited to be here this week. I am just coming off of some interesting things that we'll talk about in the announcement section in like 2 seconds. Or should we just get into that now?
Well, introduce our third host and then let's get into the announcements.
Yeah. I will for 2 seconds and I will kick it over to, I believe in my order, it looks like this. I'm pointing to the person above me.
Very good.
Hi, look at that. I'm doing pretty good here. I will kick it over to the woman that will be your hostess for this evening. One of my favorite people poets like ever, like poet laureate for Alexandria, KaNikki J.
Thank you. So we are you making an announcement after this? What's happening? Because I'm gonna say my whole spiel.
You say your whole spiel, and then we're going to do news and announcements.
And then we're going to do news and announcements, y'all, because some things have happened that we feel that y'all should know about. So I am KaNikki Jakarta. I'm happily serving a 3-year term as the first Black Poet Laureate of Alexandria, Virginia. My night, which is 2 nights, is called Poets and Platforms, where I interview poets who have platforms for the arts. I say this every week. I am very, very excited to have this guest here because we are very fortunate to have her. And we always get good people. You know, you've been watching since March. We've been here since March 2020. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to tell your mama and them that we are streaming live right now. And to support us, all of the artists that come onto this platform, they are not getting paid. They are volunteering their time, being interviewed with us. So we ask that these platforms are not free. So we ask that you support us financially. So you can support us with our Cash App or on our Patreon at Keep the Mic On, so that we can keep the mic on.
Yes. Yes, that part.
Yes. So announcements.
So first we want to congratulate former Keep the Mic On guests, Lady Breon and Kenneth Something, on organizing and being able to actually execute an amazing series of events called the Stonewall International Poetry Slam in Baltimore this past week. If you were not in Baltimore, if you missed it, I'm sorry. The slam, the final stage last night was a blaze. I'm surprised center stage is still standing with how much fire was being last night.
So there's that.
I would also like to congratulate our one and only Girl Genius who competed in this awesome
Yes, Girl Genius.
Yes, Girl Genius. Yes, who brought her geniusness to the stage. And I see that our 4th hostess has jumped on.
Time
to introduce her lovely night. So y'all give it up for our 4th hostess. Well, not 4th, because I don't even know I don't be knowing which week. I still don't know which weeks people do. I don't. So give it up for the one, the only Charity Blackwell.
Hey. Yes. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can.
All right, perfect. Hey, Sherry, your hair slicked back like a motherfucker, yo. That shit look good. All right, hey everyone. Charity Blackwell here, 1/4 of the collective Keep the Mic On. Yes, I have been part of this amazing group for going on over a year and some change, y'all. Good Lord. I'm pretty sure one of a lovely ladies probably gave y'all a little rundown of how we started, but we've been at it for over a year now, providing platforms for people to still express themselves by keeping the mic on. My night is called Art Therapy. I like to feature artists who use their art form as a way to provide healing for themselves and or others. And it's a great way to learn different tools, different healing mechanisms, techniques, and also just hear from other poets who are finding ways to fight through their trauma, fight through their pain, through their art and their work. So if you're into that type of stuff, come check out my night. I mean, either way, come check out all of our nights.
Which week is it? Because I never know.
I feel like I'm second Sundays. Yes.
Second Sundays. Okay.
Second Sundays. Yep. Yeah. Thank y'all. We're in for a great night. Let's get this rodeo going. So I'm gonna pass it right. Oh, go ahead. We have Simply Sherry. Yep.
Actually, I'm gonna send it to Girl Genius because we have one more bit of news and announcement we want to get out.
Oh yeah, we were talking about no. We were talking about Sips Fest. We were talking about Sips Fest, which just ended, and we were congratulating Kenneth and Breon for putting on a really successful and well done tournament. One of our former guests, Black Wildflower. This is okay. So back up. This is the first. This is Sips Fest. This is the first time that we've ever done this. This is a brand new international level slam.
But what was the qualifications for the poetry slam? You know what I'm trying to say.
So right. So this is not only this slam was specifically for, it overlapped Black Pride. So it was specifically for LGBTQ plus poets across the board. And so we had people from literally
all
from
across
Florida to California come through and do this slam. And one of our former guests actually came in third place. And this is the first time we've had this slam in its existence. And why this is important, on top of, this being a big major event to bring to a place like Baltimore, is the prize money on this thing. First place winner walked out with $5,000. So your third place winner walked out with, I believe, $1,000, something like that. And like the second place was $2,500, and then fourth place was $500, and everything else after that, they got $100. They got $125. So like the first 10 places got paid for this slam, which is a big deal in this community. Like everybody got paid out for this slam.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
It is. And it overlapped with a bunch of really, really amazing events. Like I went to, aside from competing, I went to, they had a drag brunch this afternoon. They had a Vogue battle Wednesday. There were a bunch of really amazing people who came in and gave poetry workshops. I believe Crystal Valentine was here. Portia O was here.
Frequency was here.
Frequency was here. Like, if you know these folks, like, this is a big deal. They came here to do these workshops. I mean, it was just an amazing, amazing week of events. So I really want to congratulate, like I said, guests who've been on this show that were involved in this. And I'm looking forward to next year. And I don't think it's here. I'm not sure if it's here next year. I don't think it is. But look out for this event. It is coming back around. It's going to be a traveling tournament. So it is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity if you see this coming around.
And I also want to congratulate the winner, Roddy, she's out of the Carolinas.
No,
she's out of New Jersey. I apologize.
She's
out of New Jersey. Amazing. She will be here in 2022, y'all. I don't know when yet, but we're
going to figure this out.
2022.
They owe me a feature. They owe me a feature because they're supposed to feature.
Can we overlap this? Because I'm telling you,
they're supposed to feature at on Bus Boys open mic, and they couldn't make it for some reason.
Hi, my name is Sherry, and I already.
I'm saying this on live. We live. She owns it.
Yes.
Charity.
All right. Yeah.
Charity. I got you already.
Bad. I'm just bad. I'm
waiting to hear from them.
We've had Frequency on the show, right?
Huh?
I think I've interviewed Frequency, right?
Yes.
Frequency,
and Black Wildflower.
Yeah.
Who else?
Yes.
I feel like there's some other folks that
Breon, Kenneth, who were both part of they organized this whole thing. I'm trying to think who else. There are some people that
We need to meet.
We need on the show that haven't been yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of reached out to a few people. This was a really good, like, hey, been meaning to link up with you. And I'm sorry it's only been online because of everything that happened.
Roddy.
Come on.
So
we got a few people in the works.
We got some people for 2022. So we have talked and chatted long enough. It is time to give it over to Ms. KaNikki so that she can get into her interview for tonight.
Bye, Yay! We're getting off the screen.
I got to love Charity. So I just want to read a little bit of this bio, and I'm going to say, like I always say, by the time a bio is read of a poet, especially one of this caliber, by the time the bio is read, it's already expired. They've already done something more and fantastic. So that's what the interview is for. So I can read the bio and then find out what else has happened since this bio. So originally from Baguio City, Luisa IGloria is the author of Maps for Migrants and Ghosts, co-winner 2019 Crab Orchard Open Poetry Prize, Southern Illinois University Press 2020. And this is like my favorite name for a book because I want to really talk about it. It's called The Buddha Wonders If She's Having a Midlife Crisis. So I definitely want to find out more about this book. And she has 12 other books as well. Luisa was the inaugural recipient for the 2015 Resurgence Poetry Prize in the UK. She is a Louis Jeffe, I think it's Jeffe, professional of English and creative writing in the MFA program at Old Dominion University, which she directed from 2009 to 2015. She also leads workshops for and is a member of the board of the Muse Writers Center in Norfolk. In July 2020, she was appointed Poet Laureate of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and the Academy of American Poets awarded her and 23 other Poet Laureates fellowships in 2021. And we're going to find out more about her, visit her website, and support her. So I'm going to bring her on in. Luisa, hey!
Hi everyone. Hi, KaNikki. How are you? And thank you for having me. I heard that a bunch of super powered women poets do these interviews, so I feel very privileged and looking forward to all of it.
We feel very privileged. So I'm going to take myself off the screen so you can bless us with a piece, and then we'll come back and get into the interview.
Okay.
The screen is yours.
Sure. Since you mentioned that poem from this book, The Buddha Wonders If She's Having a Midlife Crisis, I'm going to read this. This is for you, KaNikki. And I'm reading the title poem, The Buddha Wonders If She Is Having a Midlife Crisis. These days, tears come easily and often, in public, at inappropriate times, or without preamble, as she drives the car to or from work. Sometimes she has to pull up by the curb to wipe waterfalls from her eyes. She doesn't want to ruin her spotless driving record, much less cause injury to another creature on the road. Ask your doctor about hormone replacement therapy, says her girlfriend. Maybe get your thyroid checked, says another. Nothing wine can't cure. Or a vacation, plus mani-pedi and a Thai massage. Those are the best. A full Thai massage session typically lasts 2 hours. Someone walks up and down the length of your back and cracks your knuckles, pulls your fingers, toes, and ears, rotates your arms and legs, and kneads your skin until it glows. The Buddha tries to remember the last time she glowed, when anyone said she looked good in whatever kind of light, when the lines around her eyes laughed, then turned into quilled ribbons at the ends. A long time. In college, she'd read about the paradox of motion, how that which is in locomotion must arrive at the halfway stage before it arrives at the goal. She remembers thinking then, as she does now, how this was either the smartest way to talk oneself into tackling daunting goals and distances in manageable increments, or the dumbest reason for staying home, since any progress was doomed to impossibility from the start. And in the case of this potential midlife crisis, the middle is the middle of the middle from the moment anybody ever took their first breath here.
Oh wow. Wow, amazing. So did you come up with the name of the book first or the poem first and you named the book after the poem?
I don't know. This came out in 2018, and I don't know if you know, some of my friends and some other students and some other people know that I have kept a daily writing practice for it's going to be 11 years now in November, and during one of these like months, it was spring, I think, when I started working on these
Wow.
poems. I was writing Buddha poems, and I was wondering where they were coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like I had to write them out of my system in order to satisfy or to feed that fever, right? And then when I looked back, I saw, wow, I think there's enough here for a book. And so I saw that the idea of the Buddha was basically a persona poem collection, mostly, although not all of the poems here are persona poems. But I begin from the premise. I used to go more often to yoga, and I would hear people say things like, the Buddha in me greets the Buddha in you, or some sort of variation of that. And I thought, well, if that's true, then the Buddha can be anybody, right? So I think that's where the seed
Right.
was born, the idea of using the Buddha in many different forms and guises. And if certainly the Buddha is in every one of us, then the Buddha is in a woman who is having a midlife crisis, or the
Mm-hmm.
Buddha is someone who goes and looks for a therapist, or has a son who has an internet addiction. So there's all sorts of Buddha poems in
Wow.
this book. So I had a
Wow.
lot of fun writing it.
Yes, it's when I first read that, it's one of those things when you don't know the writer, but you see that on a bookshelf and you say, what is this about? I always say the title of the book was what draws the people who don't know you to the book, right? The book cover, but of course the title as well. Yes, I thought it was amazing. I wanted to definitely delve into that. But I wanted to ask you, because we have to get this, of course, out of the way. When you have these interviews, you're interviewed a lot, and people always ask you these questions. So we have to get them out of the way because we have to also keep in mind people that are new to us and they want to know these things about us. So I'll start with, who introduced you to poetry?
Oh, well, who introduced me to words is basically more like how I want to think of that question. And I'm going to say, I feel like my first teachers were really my parents. They taught me to read at the age of 3.
Oh, wow.
I was raised as an only child, and I had parents who were my father was 20 years older than my mother, and so there seemed like a big sort of like world of difference between them in those like that gap of 20 years. But they were both very interested in art and in making sure that I had exposure to the arts. And of course reading is one way to get to those things, so I was taught to read very early. And I would remember my mother reading stories to me every night, and when she ran out of stories she would just make them up and basically whisper them in my ear until I fell asleep, or so she thought, because then I would just say, I want another one. Until that was all, you know. I think stories were very, very much a part of my growing up. Also, I loved listening to people tell stories around me, and I tell this story to my students in poetry still today. And if somebody has heard it for the millionth time, I am so sorry, but I have to share this here on Keep the Mic On. So when I was a toddler, I was maybe 2.5 or so, and all the women in the family were cooking and trying to get me out of the way and make sure that I was not in trouble or getting myself into any trouble. So they would put a bag of lima beans in front of me. and a basket, and they would just say, well, peel everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So only as an adult did I realize that you don't really need to peel the things to eat them or cook them. So now I think about how I think that was maybe my first craft lesson in poetry, because poets pay attention. And sometimes we're told that we pay attention to the things that are that don't really appear grand in scale, but that are very important in the way that we recognize them as part of our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
attention is very much what that taught me. So I would say that, being taught as a poet came from that kind of context or setting in my childhood.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story. Um, yeah, somebody else was saying they love it as well. It's just not just me saying that they love it. So it's like
Thank you.
poetry to you. So now, I have to ask this because the title of your book and because you're writing every day. So is poetry a spiritual practice? Is it therapy or is it a hobby for you?
Well, I don't think of it in terms of hobby or therapy language. I mean, I've been writing so long. I think I started seriously considering publication in my early 20s when I realized one could do such things with poems, like send them out in the world. And there were people who actually wanted to publish them and actually wanted to read them. So I realized that only in my young 20s. But from all of this time and teaching writing and writing also, I think that writing poetry is not just a life work or a commitment. I think it's kind of like soul work also. You have to involve all of your being when you bring yourself to the page.
Wow.
And it's something that I think is always showing you new things about the world, about yourself. I don't like to think of it as catharsis. I don't like to think of it as only bringing you those kinds of things, although they might happen as a side effect of your working on these things. But basically, I like to think about it as my way of being in the world, and I realize that poetry is my favored way of maybe responding in language to the world and what is going on around us. So I also I can't remember who said it now, but that writing is a kind of work in which you move towards unknowing. And I think that is so wonderful to think about that, because we're told a lot, especially in writing classes, write what you know, write what you know.
Right.
Okay. And once you have exhausted that, what then? So I also feel like that sense of discomfort, that initial sense of unsettlement is often the place where we begin anyway. So this writing towards what we don't know yet is a process of finding out more. Certainly I continue to learn more about myself from my daily writing practice. So it's a kind of, work in progress even now after
Right.
so many years.
Yeah. So do you feel that as a poet, it is your responsibility to write the times, like what's happening now? Is that your responsibility?
I think so. I think that because we, in poetry, when we write poetry, we are paying attention to our world, even if it's only the world that is most immediate, the world that is touching the closest parts of what we consider our lives. At the same time, this life is fed by other lives. We cannot think of ourselves unless we think of our relationship to others. The minute we say I, we have to start thinking about a you. We have to start thinking about other things that we are connected to. So I think that, especially given that I was appointed Poet Laureate of Virginia in July of 2020 with a specific charge, they tell you now you are the premier ambassador, either of your county like you are, or your state or your city, right? And the charge that comes with that is to also try and make other people more aware of how important poetry's role is in not just individual life, but in public life, that we need poems. And I think especially because of the pandemic, the last, 18, almost 20 months now, I think people are showing such a hunger for poetry, for words, because it's the one of the places, like other arts too, where you can tap into those places in yourself where you find it difficult to put experience into words, but somehow the language of poetry or the language of art, those who draw or paint or make music, that's where we can find some kind of way to articulate what is very difficult to talk about,
Right.
what we love so much that it hurts, how we hurt so much, how we are angry, how we don't understand the world, or how we would like something else other than what we have. So I think those are the places which poetry and art touches in ways that, I don't know, ordinary language doesn't seem to
Right.
quite completely exhaust that. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Exactly. I know. I totally agree with you. And poetry is such a way to relate to people. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm sure like you've been reading poems before, and you see people in the audience, and they're like, because they're agreeing or they're relating to it. You know, they really feel it. Yeah.
Right. Something resonates. And I mean, I was teaching a class this afternoon for my Muse Poetry Workshop. And, we like to read poems aloud, and we give readings. And what does that really mean? I think it's so important to share poetry or our words and poems also aloud or orally, because poetry is language that passes through a body. It passes through our bodies, through our mouths, but it passes differently through, each individual body is different, like conduit for those words. And so it's a great experience to listen to these things.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your writing practice. We know that you write daily, right? So when you're writing daily, because April is National Poetry Month, and we do that 30-30 where we write a poem a day for 30 days. Are you actually finishing a full piece per day?
Yeah, I try.
Wow.
Yeah, and out of my daily practice, I have pulled 4 full books of poetry and 4 chapbooks.
Clearly.
Yes, but I do go back and revise. But in the
Okay.
moment of writing doing my daily writing practice, I have very simple goals that I set for myself. I try to make sure that nothing else is going on, and it was born out of the condition that we feel very acutely as poets or artists. We need the time to write. And there's so much going on. We're doing so much. We're running back and forth. Our lives are crazy, made crazier, by all of what's going on right now, right? So I just started saying, I'm going to stop complaining about not having enough time in the day and just make time in the day, even if it's only a half hour, because if I don't get to it, I am very unhappy, and the people who live with me become very unhappy.
Yes.
Right. So
Understood.
yeah. So out of that, basically, I try to come as close as possible to what maybe sounds in my head or in my ear as done. But I will go back to it. I will revise. I do revise. But that's the writing part. And I don't set any particular time of day in which I do this. I will take it when I can. So it has been sort of all over the place. But I notice that when I'm teaching during a regular semester, that time of day tends to be later at night. And I'm a night person too. So that doesn't bother me at all. But I have written in my journals. I have written on the computer a lot. Because when my daughter was growing up and I was taking her to high school and picking her up after school or practice or something or other, or going to the doctor, waiting for my turn, I would just use the note function in my phone to just start. and then transfer that later to someplace else.
That's
So,
smart.
yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. So she's giving us a lot of good tips here. A lot of good tips. So let's talk about, because we have to talk about poets and platforms, and I know that I've interviewed 2 other poet laureates on here as well. 3 poet laureates. I didn't interview. They've been on the platform, but so let's talk about your poet laureate. So how did you become? How do you become the poet laureate of Virginia? Because everything is different.
Yeah.
Every state, city, county is different.
Yeah, I find that that's true. And I really marvel at the wide variation. It just seems like there's no like formula or specific way in which these positions were first envisioned. Anyway, at the state poet laureate level in Virginia, what the process involves being nominated to a short list by the Poetry Society of Virginia. And then they take that short list of 3 names to the governor. And I believe the governor selects the poet laureate, and it is a 2-year term without compensation, in which you are supposed to serve as a premier ambassador.
Wait, so you say without compensation? Is there like you don't get any stipends for doing workshops or anything?
Nope.
Nothing.
Nope. Not for this position.
I have to talk to Virginia.
Huh?
I have to have a conversation with Virginia.
Yeah. But so fortunately, though, I learned about the Poet Laureate Fellowship Program of the Academy of American Poets. And I applied for one of them in January last year. And in April, I found out that I was one of 23 poet laureates nationwide. So they were in different poet laureate positions. They were either state or county or city poet laureates. And we were supposed to present in our application ideas for like a year-long calendar of public poetry projects. And it came with funding. So now, having won one of these, now I am in the process of being able to pay people in order to help me do more of these programs.
That's fantastic. I saw that you were one of the people who won, and I knew about that. I knew about it. Somebody had sent me over the information, which is great because that's what we need. We as artists always want to give people some type of compensation for being involved in teaching workshops or whatever it is that we have them doing. So are you like commissioned to do different work? Do they call you? Does the state call you out to do like commission work? Because I mean, in my city, I do city work, right? So like I just did the Virginia National Urban League Guild yesterday, and then I'm doing something for the on Veterans Day. Well, 2 days before Veterans Day, I'm doing something for our veterans in service and all of that. So I'm often called to write commission pieces for that. So is that what they do with you?
I have not yet received a direct commissioned poem, but for the Juneteenth program this year, Governor Northam invited me to be part of the program that they did out here, Fort Monroe, and I read one of the poems that I had written. Shortly after, we went into lockdown, I found myself writing these Dear America poems in which I write letters. Some of them are letters of complaint to America. Some of them are just, letters telling America, where I am right now. And I read one of those. So that felt sort of like maybe like a mission poem. And then I was very proud to be informed that when they took down the Lee statue, they collected 49 artifacts to put into a new time capsule into the pedestal of what used to be that statue, because it is a different moment that we are in. We're trying to build a different kind of history from, I guess, starting from where we are right now. It's a time of transition. It's a time of change. And I think maybe there's a little bit more, I hope there's a little bit more awareness than there was before. So that poem that I read at the Juneteenth program was one of those that was put into the time capsule.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the way to leave a legacy.
It is. It is.
Yes.
But
So can you reapply for the position?
I don't know that there has been, like, I know you know that Joy Harjo, who is our National Poet Laureate, is serving a very rare third term, right?
Oh, wow.
And she's so amazing, and that kind of voice is so important for the times we are in. To see that kind of poet on the National Poet Laureate stage is so important. But I don't know about Virginia. I don't know that there's been any repeat or any renomination, and I would not know the answer. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wonder, people are always asking me, are you going to apply again? And I said, no, I only have this one term, so I can't reapply. So I was just wondering, I don't know.
Yeah. Yours is a 3-year term, right?
Mine is a 3-year term.
Mine is 2. So I'm like 1 year and some months into it. 1 year and a quarter or so. Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of already talked about like your writing style. So do you have any other talents other than poetry?
I like to cook and bake. A lot of the time these days is like stress cooking and stress baking. I like to draw. I used to paint. My parents also made me take music lessons for a good long time.
What type of
And
music?
piano.
Okay.
And I was told that I could have gone to like music school if I wanted to. But then my English teachers in college kidnapped me for life. So here I am. So
yeah, you found out you were a writer.
I am a writer. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm a poet. I like to knit. I like to hand bind books.
You have lots of other things that you do other than poetry, other stuff that
I may not necessarily be good at all of them, but I like doing them.
You like doing them. Yes, definitely. So let's talk about your Instagram and your Twitter handle. Why Poets Lizard?
Poets Lizard. Okay, so I come from a part of the Philippines that is in the north. It's called the Cordillera region. And this was a region in the Philippines which I think was one of the last to be colonized because it was rugged. The territory was difficult to penetrate. And only with American colonialism and the arrival of they built roads, they built railroads and that sort of thing. Access finally became possible. But in this area, there's a lot of folklore. There's a lot of mythology that's very close to me because I grew up there. And one of the stories that they tell is kind of like a trickster tale, and it involves the lizard. And in this particular story that I'm thinking about, the lizard is supposedly being pursued by, I guess, some hunters. And in that region also, it's very cold. It's one of the places in the Philippines is sort of like, it's temperate all year round. You can wear sweaters there. There's mountains, there's fog, there's mist. There's even like frost sometimes in January or February, but no snow. So in the mountains, the lizard is being pursued, and there's these thick cloud banks between mountains, and he dives into them and into the clouds. Of course, he can get away with all of this leaping because that's what he is by nature. But people aren't like that, and so they hesitate. And he pokes his head out, and he says, it's like a sea of clouds. Come on in and jump in. You can just swim to the other side. And of course, they fall to their deaths, and he gets away. Also, the lizard is one of those types of animals who can regenerate parts of their bodies when they're caught, or when they're like, if the tail is caught in something like in a doorway, maybe they can like just give up that part and then regrow another part. So it's such metaphor in that creature. So I thought, I like the idea of regeneration, the idea of being able to grow even after a situation which might have compromised you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. So since we're talking about social media too, and about your social media handle, do you think that the internet and social media contributes to the well-being of poetry?
Well, I think that we are so connected now in ways that we haven't been before. And certainly, I think the internet contributes to our ability to speak to each other with a global reach. But the act of writing itself, I feel it's still very much an act of communing with what we carry inside us. But after we're done with that part, I think it helps us to get that.
Mhm.
That language out, share it with other people. So I think that yes, it supports how poetry, continues to be alive. And we saw the amazing Amanda Gorman
Right.
read, such electrifying poetry, and all of a sudden people are like, poetry! I want to write poetry again. It's like something has been rekindled, and it's like
Right.
all of a sudden poetry is sexy again. But it always has been, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we're in a moment, though, in which we see this proliferation of networks. And I tell my students this too, that we talk about technology in terms of, these things, our phones, our
Mhm.
computers, and all of the stuff with bytes and whatever. But the culture of virality that we know now and call virality, think of the oral traditions in our early cultures globally. And I certainly come from an original culture, which has a very rich oral tradition too. Well, that is a form of technology too, isn't it? If by means of just word of mouth, your stories stay alive and reach another person like 300, 400 years
Mhm.
back, isn't that technology too? And I think that's the original virality,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Right. It is. It is.
Mhm.
Totally agree. Totally. Um, it's so much I can ask. So much I can ask. You talk about your students, so let's talk about your workshops. What type of workshops do you teach?
Well, I teach mostly in the creative writing program in ODU. So I teach in the graduate poetry workshops, and I also teach craft courses. I also teach literature. And of course, we also teach undergraduate classes in creative writing and literature. And I want to say, though, that I did not myself, so to speak, I didn't cut my teeth in an MFA program. When I came to the US, I was 30 and I came to do a PhD program, and I did that in Chicago. But I hadn't really been put through the whole, I mean, I'm seeing, students and a lot of people are so used to the workshop models. They've been in one workshop or another. They know what it's like to have a writing group, to come and exchange poems and help each other and give each other feedback. I didn't do all that, growing up as a poet, but I did have friends who were faithful readers, still have a few of them right now. But it felt a little bit strange to suddenly be uh, behind the desk and be the teacher at these things when I didn't necessarily find that to be my formative culture in school or as a writer or in writing school. So, but I also feel like I have a little bit more of a sense of freedom because of that. I feel that I have been able to connect to other forms of literary tradition or cultural tradition, and I try to remind my students that there are other things uh, besides the pond in which we are swimming in. That there
Mhm.
are so many rich traditions worldwide, and that's open to all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a chance to be a little bit in a workshop with you when we did the in company of laureates, and I have to say that I was amazed that you're as short as you were because we look so tall. You know what I mean? We're so, I mean, listen, I'm
Yeah.
your height.
Yeah, I
So,
know.
and I
No.
think and I think that when people see us and they see us online or whatever, like we're such big voices of people that people think we're taller. Like I get that all the time. People say, "I thought you were taller. I thought you are you this short?" Yes, but my personality is so huge. It's
Right.
huge.
I'm with you on that. People, my students are like, after we came out of Zoom, they're like meeting me in person for the first time. They're like, oh, we thought you were taller.
You thought, right? See, it's not just me. See, it's not just me, yeah. Because I know
It's not
I
just
have
you, but
a big,
we are tall in other ways.
yes, we're tall in other ways, definitely. Go. Okay. When people ask you what you do for a living to support yourself, what do you say?
I say I am a professor of English and creative writing, and that I have taught poetry and writing for the last, 41 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I started
How can you say?
teaching.
Wait.
Wait, wait, wait,
I'm gonna
wait.
need to see. I'm gonna need to see some ID. Okay. How do you teach something for 41 years? I'm gonna need to see some ID.
It's just, I love my concealer. Okay. No, but no. Yeah, I started teaching at 18.
Oh
I
wow.
can believe that. I was a very young instructor at 18. I was one of those people who felt like I started in the
We
womb.
move.
Basically. But, I was one of those people when I was in college. I felt like in order to get to my real life, I had to finish as fast as I could. And I
Wow.
also thought, of course, mistakenly, maybe, I don't know, then that the only way to get to my own identity was to make my own family.
Hmm.
But I mean, you imbibe a lot of the messages that you get from your surrounding culture, right? So I was very young and I was very green. So,
Mhm.
but then I started teaching also, and I discovered that I loved teaching, and I loved especially teaching literature, teaching writing, teaching creative writing, and I just kept writing and kept writing. And in the process, I felt like I was discovering more of my voice and more of who I thought I was becoming. And it just felt like that was the path for me.
Mhm. Man, that's fantastic. Fantastic. I see there's a lot of books behind you.
Yeah,
And there's a
yes.
lot of books behind me. Are
Me
you are
too.
you much of a reader that as a writer?
Yes, I am.
You read a lot too.
Yes.
Yes. So what type of books do you read?
Well, right now, I'm going to look around me because I'm teaching. Usually, I teach a lot of books in my creative writing workshops also, because I tell my students you can't be a writer unless you are a wide reader and a constant reader. So this semester, let me look at my books. I am teaching these authors. I'm teaching Kiki Petrosino,
Hmm.
wonderful White Blood book. I'm teaching Karen Ann Whaley's Rose is a Verb. I'm teaching Kaveh Akbar. I taught Natasha Trethewey not too long ago. Threya Almontasser, Jane Hirschfield, and just so many other poets that I love.
Hey, I was writing these down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to write those down as well. You spoke a little bit about do you feel we had a poet on before and I can't remember who said it, but they did not feel that you can write unless it's your own experience. How do
That
you
you
feel
can't
about that?
what?
You can't write poetry that's not your own experience, right? So like if you are, she was using the example of like being raped, right? So
Hmm.
she's like you're writing about a poem and you're writing about the experience of being raped. How can you write a poem for
When
something
it's
that you
not
haven't
your
experienced?
experience.
Do you think that is a lane that you can be in? Do you have to write from your own experience or
Um, okay, but you heard me say earlier that I think we can certainly write towards the things that we don't know yet because there is some desire to learn more about what that experience is.
Mhm.
And I think it might be the same kind of motivation behind a desire to write about subjects which are difficult, subjects of trauma, subjects which are probably not ours, so to speak, but that move us in very profound ways. So I would say because poetry and literature and art in general, I think their cornerstone is really a kind of basic human empathy. You've got to be able to feel for, you've got to be able to write
Right.
in literature so that your reader is brought as close as possible, right? As words can take you underneath the skin of that experience. It's not the same. It may be once or twice or thrice removed, but to try and widen the angle of vision, widen the point of view, widen that perspective, and close a little bit of that distance. So I would say for subjects that are difficult like that because of either personal or historical, cultural trauma, I would do it with a great sense of respect. I would only do it if I am able to have conversations with others who are also thinking about the profundity of this thing that we all wish to address and wish to talk about, but are maybe groping our way. What is the right way to do this? And to
Right.
take our cue from the people whose experience it is primarily. So I don't think it is a blanket, what is this? Rule that we should never write about these things, but we should do it with respect, do it with a lot of research, do it with compassion, do it out of a sense of knowledge that what we have arrived at is our own perspective on something that is probably also profound and in much more different ways than our experience of it, and that we acknowledge that.
I agree with you. I agree with you totally. Totally agreed. So, who are your favorite writers?
Oh, that is so hard. It's like, who's your favorite child? And you're gonna cause a war if you say
Do
that.
you do okay? Well, let me say this. What I do the same thing with music, right? And I've always done this, right? So if I pick up your book, right, I go and I buy all of your books and anything. So like if on my bookshelf, you'll see that I have the same author, like whoever. I buy all of their work. I go back and try to find work, and I continue to follow them, right?
Mm-mm.
Because if I like the way their writing style, I continue to follow them. Do you do that? Do you
Uh,
buy like the same?
Yeah, I probably look at repeats if you want. Who never goes away. Like if I would make a reading list, or if my students are and I are working on reading lists, who am I recommending maybe to them? And a few poets that are always perhaps on my list include Federico Garcia Lorca, Spanish poet. Um, Someone like maybe Ilya Kaminsky. Um, Natasha Trethewey, I love her work so much. A Filipino poet named Carlos Angeles, who has passed away, but it's important to me, I think, also in my formation as a writer. He had only written 2 books in his life, and he left the Philippines to come to the US and pick up, I'm not sure what kind of job with an airline, but a job that would feed his family and support his family. And so he left his writing behind, and only towards the latter part of his life did he produce a second book. And I got to meet him personally. This is a writer whose works I studied in college back in the Philippines. And I got to meet him because somebody introduced us, I think. And then I did get to visit him when he lived in California, when he was still alive. I did get a chance to visit him, and we formed a close friendship. And he was already in his, what I would say, 80s maybe. But he was a late devotee, a new devotee of the internet, and he loved email. And during that period, he would email me every day and ask me, what have you written today? So, like, keep me on my toes and also keep me honest and grounded. And I love that formative relationship that it brought me, that gift for the few years that I was able to experience his friendship while he was still alive.
Wow, that's amazing, and
Yeah.
so inspiring. So that question on what have you written today to try to to get you. My day used to be like, how many books have you read this year? oh, what books have you read? So
Oh yeah, and he would send me.
it's a reminder
He would
that I
send
need to
me
read. I need to
poems.
read.
He would send me books sometimes, or he would tell me about a poet that he had just discovered, and yeah.
Wow. So, what do you think is your biggest accomplishment?
I guess on the personal side, having raised 4 daughters. On the professional side, I would say uh, becoming a tenured full professor in an institution of higher learning is certainly
Mhm.
up there in the books for me, because I think that there's still not too many indigenous or uh, academics of color who have managed to get that far in their profession. I mean, there's more of us now, but there wasn't when I was still, coming up in the ranks. And so I think that that is an
Mhm.
important thing. And of course, being both Laureate of the Commonwealth.
Yes, of course that. What is your biggest fear?
Maybe running out of time to do all the things I want to do. Do you ever feel that way?
Wow.
You said I still have my sanity. I don't know about that.
Yeah, and look amazing. She says kudos.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So tell us 5 artists that's on your playlist.
Okay. Who do I have? I like Kishibashi's album Omoyari.
Okay.
I have it on my playlist. I love tango music. I have a lot of Astor Piazzolla. My friend Grace Nono, who is a singer, ethnomusicologist, and anthropologist. She has an amazing voice, and she's got several albums where she uses indigenous music, and she, incorporates them into newer, more contemporary forms of song. I have the Goat Rodeo sessions with Yo-Yo Ma and Chris Style. I like
Oh, I love Crystal. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
I knew Crystal when he was a child. Not a child, but he was, young and
I know
just,
what you mean. Yeah. And I'm showing my age. I like Eva Cassidy.
Okay. That's great. I like this. You're amazed at some of the stuff that some of the writers listen to, right? So I think sometimes like the music is an inspiration to us, gets us writing. So that's why I always like to ask that question and see what we're listening to.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I do like to just listen while I'm writing away, and the background noise doesn't really disturb me. So you can put me in a cafe, for instance, and I will be able to tune that out. It's not a big deal.
I can do that with every song. I like to listen to instrumentals more, like or like classical music is good. Classical music is real good for me to kind of write to, because sometimes I find myself singing the song if I hear the words to it, right? Singing, so it's distracting.
That's right.
So let's give a shout out moment, right? So somebody has asked you to come and feature you, or asked you to read somewhere. This is a good shout out moment that they treated you so well. Who or what organization who or where are these people that you would like to give a shout out to?
Well, some of them that I can think of right now. In 2015, when I won that Resurgence Prize, they said, "Come on over and read." And I was part of this reading program at the Kensington Museum, I believe it was, in London, to read for that Resurgence Prize. That was cool. And when you receive prize money, it's like a windfall, and you're like, okay, I didn't really plan on this, but it's here. So also I was able to take my husband and my youngest daughter with me.
Wow.
Just spend the prize money on this trip and enjoy the time together. So that was great. Recently in September, I read for the Voices reading series that was actually started by Lucille Clifton at St. Mary's College in Maryland. And Jeff Coleman had invited me to come and read. And I think that was the first time that they had opened up a face-to-face reading program, a series again, after all of this crazy stuff from the pandemic. I also, during the pandemic, there's a lot of Zoom readings I loved. I was invited to do a reading for a fifth grade class at, I think it was Fairfax County Public School. And that was fun. Ask you so many different, like,
I know
good
this
questions.
this this young sixth grader. I was in North Carolina. I can't remember the name of the school at the time, but she I was telling her about, poems and poet laureate and blah blah blah, and then she raised her hand. She said, "Now listen, how much money do you make doing this thing? How much money have you made?" I was like, "You're in sixth grade. You're like, how much money have I made doing this? I want to know if this is." I was like, "Oh my God!" Like,
Yeah.
you're
Do
not
you
prepared.
do you get a stipend?
I get a very small stipend. I do get a stipend for I can do 2 workshops a year that they pay me for. So that's why I said, nothing, no workshop stipends, no nothing, no nothing. But yeah,
Nothing.
I
Only now with the fellowship.
say that again.
Only now do I have a
With
little
with the fellowship, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's
Only
so good.
now.
It's so good that you got that,
Right,
because
right.
that definitely
Oh,
will help. So, well,
right.
tell
I
people
want to
what.
mention one more reading venue because
Okay.
my husband said that the reading that I gave in 1995 at Women and Children First bookstore in Chicago, I was in grad school. I was reading from one of my books that was published in the Philippines called Encanto, and he said, "Isn't that memorable? Because that's where I think I fell in love." So
Wow.
he mentioned that.
Wow. Wow. That must have been really, really good, because 1995, you're bringing that up. That must have been really, really good. So listen, while we're talking about how you don't get a stipend, let's tell the people how they can purchase something from you. I
Oh,
already have you're scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So again, I mentioned that
okay.
Louisa is here, and she's here for volunteering her time. So if you are inspired and you would like to give her some tip money, then her PayPal is scrolling at the bottom of the screen.
Thank
Also,
you. Thank you so
please
much.
tell us how that we can purchase your product and where.
Okay, on my website, which is, I think it's at the
It's at
top
the
of
top.
order,
Mhm.
yeah, luisaiGloria.com. If you hit the tab, I think it's publications or books, you should come up to a list of most of the books that have links and hyperlinks to places where you can buy the books.
Okay.
I have a few things on hand. I mean, if people would like to buy directly from me, if you can write me at that same email address, that is also my PayPal, we can work something out. And I can inscribe it if you would like. I have a few copies on hand of the newest book, Maps for Migrants and Ghosts. And I have just a few copies of this book, The Buddha Wonders, if
Mhm.
she's having a midlife crisis. I have also a few on hand of Juan Luna's Revolver.
Okay.
And yeah, that's
Fantastic.
yeah.
Okay. You guys have heard that. So people are always saying that, if they don't have money, how can they support? So please tell the viewers how they can support you if they don't have the finances to do so. What it would be good support for
I would say, well, support other poets too in your community by, finding out what else they need. Also, I want to alert, especially poets from Virginia or in Virginia. On my website, I also have like an ongoing right now for the whole of October. I'm doing a crowdsourced poetry project called We Are Here. And if you would like to send 2 to 4 lines of your own poem response to some of the prompts I have there, just go over to my website, click on the tab that says We Are Here. That's something I'm doing for the entire month of October. And
it.
it'll be cool to see how all the contributions line up on the page. And it'll be like a collaborative poem that we've written.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Okay, I think I got an email about that, so I'm definitely
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
checking that out this week. It is on my list of checkout things. So I'm going to ask you for another poem, and then I'll see if I have any more questions in the comments, and see if the
Sure.
team has something. So
I'm
I'm going
sorry.
to X myself out. I'll see if the team has any questions as well.
Okay. All right. So I think I'm going to read one of those Dear America poems that I have been writing, like I told you. I'm not going to read the one that was put into the time capsule, but another one. It's still called America or Dear America. America, you were the cousin who joined a beauty contest the year before her visa application cleared so she could be a nurse somewhere in Rochester, New Jersey. She didn't think a roll of sheepskin inked with her name and St. Louis University would be enough. Soon after, she sent pictures of the doctor she would marry. America, we like to think there might have been love and not just the green card. We hear they're still together in their dotage. America, you were another cousin slowly dying from cancer, alone in an apartment in Maryland. I knew her only by name and the photographs she sent. Her stylish bob, her cigarettes and drugstore bought dark glasses, the patent leather Mary Janes she sent one Christmas, the walking doll with flaxen hair, white lace bib and pinafore, the vacant eyes that opened and closed and give me nightmares even now. And you were a certain smell before we even began to understand what you really were, synthetic and abnormally clean, like Clorox or Windex, with a bottom note of soda left open in the sun. It wafted up from a box that took 2 months to ship from your flank or your hip or armpit. Wherever it was, people like us found neighborhoods where they could rent walk ups whose stairwells overflowed with steam from rice pots. America, we can shine and scrub your floors without a Hoover or a Roomba, then punch holes in the bottoms of fruit cocktail cans so we can grow bird chilies and tomatoes on the veranda. We let a dentist in our old hometown pull out all our teeth so you wouldn't get the chance to do it and charge us triple. There is a fish we like to eat whose belly is soft and sweet and full of fat, but every bone in its body is a tree that bristles with more than a dozen spears. Like you, America, if we're not careful, we could choke on even the smallest mouthful.
Wow. You make me want to write up to America. You make me want to do it.
Let's all do it.
Yes, all do it. That's a great. I might have to put that. I'm gonna make. See, Louisa, you're inspiring me. I said I wasn't gonna do any workshops before the end of the year. I don't know. I might end up doing something like let's write to America. Something might happen.
Yeah.
I was going to start a collection. Pardon my language, but you know, America is a fuckboy, and like that.
I would love to read that poem.
Oh,
I have the first one. It was a Juneteenth poem that I wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got your follow-up, Sherry.
The one that you sent me, I said, yeah, I'm gonna need to read that one. That was the one.
Yeah, that first one.
Well, this kind of poem, I think, I felt like I needed to write it because I often get, all kinds of weird comments, like from people I've met for the first time too. When they learn that I'm, my, my original culture is Filipino, they say things like, "Oh, your people are so industrious," or, they start talking to me about anecdotes of the time when they had Filipina maids.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's that.
Wow.
to, we need to address those kinds of things right away. And again, as I told you, I think poetry is my preferred way of addressing those kinds of things.
I love that. I love it.
I do love that. I do love that. So I heard you make the statement about your writing every day. Do you start with a specific prompt? Do you have a prompt book, or you just sit down and start writing? Just whatever comes to your brain.
I don't have a prompt book. I wish I did. And sometimes I do hear people talk about, you do? I want that.
Listen, I will send it to you. I write a prompt book every year around 30-30, and I increase the number that are in there. I have plenty of those. I have links for them, and I'll send them over.
Yeah, I do it too. I write 30 prompts on April during April National Poetry Month, and it's on my blog. But for myself, I mean, it usually comes from whatever I'm reading or whatever my life is interacting with certain things at the moment, and that becomes the fodder for poems. Because I mean, like I said earlier, it's a kind of like soul work, or your life work that's part of being in the thick of whatever circumstance that you have, and you respond in poems, or you respond in language.
Definitely. I'm trying to see if we had some questions.
There's a paragraph from analysis, and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it.
But before that, there were two questions. One was somebody, I think it was Miko, asked about your daily writing practices. We just covered.
Yeah, we covered that already.
Right.
And I saw Catrice, she said, would love to hear more about the heritage food in your writing.
Heritage food, meaning... do I write about food and what that means to me? Maybe
you had a lot of I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting, but you had a lot of food references, especially in that last one. Maybe that's where we're going. I don't know. Where's
yeah. Well, I think food is a very important aspect of anyone's cultural experience. One of the first places around which we tell stories, for instance, is a table at which we share food with other people. Did you want to say something?
She just clarified. There you go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Heritage food. Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So I think that our taste registers, our memories of food, also connect to, in a very deep way, to those places where our poems are forged in that same place. Because there's a straight line from the head to the mouth to the heart to the gut, right? And we are told in so many different ways that what you feel in your gut is very important. What you feed your gut, therefore, is very important. So when we talk about language, we talk about poetry as also food, a different kind of food that we need, right? So it's a natural connection between food and writing or culture. And there's so many layers of references, layers of senses. Yeah, definitely. And that work of paying attention to the world is like opening all your senses in many different ways to what the world feeds you. Also, I just like to eat.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
That's real.
Yeah, that's real.
That's real. Food is good. Food is always good.
Okay.
So like you're just eating and you're thinking about the next thing, or you're talking about food while you're eating food. So that's me.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so apparently the whole question didn't show here, and I'm only on this thread.
Okay. Give me one moment, because I'm gonna have to put on my glasses, because I see.
Put on your glasses. Apparently he posted it into the Facebook thread, because it wouldn't post it all here because it's long analysis. Yeah. So
when you write novels, they get cut off.
They get cut off. So at the beginning of it,
it did.
Louisa, thank you. And to follow up on the question, poets reflecting the times, and on the poem you just did, in the past 20 years, we've seen two fresh surges of anti-Asian hate, going back to the anti-Muslim and South Asian hate, with the rise of war on terror, and then more recently, a new wave of anti-East Asian hate with COVID blame, the attack on critical race theory, etc. Of course, this type of hate and what's that word?
Xenophobia.
Gloria never, I need my glasses, disappear. Rather, it just takes a different form. So I don't know. Can you pick up from there? I don't.
Analysis, we need the rest of the question.
What's the rest of the question? Analysis.
I don't know the rest of the question.
Yeah,
Also,
but I
didn't sir.
Yeah, that definitely resonates with me. One of the courses that I also have taught for quite some time now at ODU is a course in Asian American literature. And if you go back and delve into that history, which of course feeds into the literature also, the whole yellow peril, the fear of contagion, goes back to the 1800s, even maybe before that. And the resurgence of these things that we call xenophobia, or that we are calling AAPI hate, they arise in situations in which there are all these fears about the other. There are all these fears about presumed threats that to the national body, if you will, if you want to go with that contagion idea, that the national body somehow is going to get infected with all of these things coming from the outside, not realizing that these things are also part of our inside, part of the body, part of the national body. So we are here. And, again, that's one of the reasons too for my prompt in the crowdsourced poetry project. We are here. We are here in different forms. We have different histories, but we are all part of the same thing, that we are all now living in this same, this beast of an existence, this planet on the verge of extinction. And instead of killing each other, maybe we should do things to actually try to save each other and to save this burning world, right? From more burning, from more destruction. So, but I do feel that a lot. And I myself have felt various forms of racism, anti-Asian hate throughout, my life in America. So I resonate with that. Last part of the question.
It said, do you feel that your poetry is in a position to push back against symphoria mindsets? Oh, okay. Thank you, Mika.
Well, I tried.
You're the real MVP tonight.
That's what I said. I said, you're the real MVP for that.
Yeah. Well, I do try. I think I try to push back. I try to change the narrative. I try to make sure that if I do tell or retell a story, that I tell it from the point of view of not someone who wants to control that narrative for their own purposes, but to come closer to the narrative as it should be told. So yes, I try. Does the art open up people's minds for thought and dialogue to the best of your knowledge? Yeah, these are deep questions, man. I think, yes, I think art opens up people's minds, maybe makes them a little bit more receptive. And it may not happen immediately, but maybe in time, when people start to feel, I have lines in another poem that I wrote, and for the life of me, I'm not one of those people who has the talent to memorize and perform those poems. So maybe you are that way, and I praise you. I am not worthy, but I remember I have some lines in the poem that talk about how we need to soften instead of harden. And I think art allows us to do that. Allows us to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Oh, I'm here for this whole conversation tonight.
Oh,
yes. Louisa, you are a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. Let me tell you, I'm so glad that you decided to join us, because you definitely inspired me and given me a lot of things to think about. So I'm so glad that you said yes to this interview.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make a personal request to please email a copy of your syllabus for the Asian American Writers course to keep the mic on.
Yeah.
That's just for me. I took a course at another university when I was in college in the 90s in African American women literature, which was an amazing course. And that's like the one syllabus, of course, that I have no clue where it is because it's been 20 years. I wish I still had it.
Wow.
Because that book list was amazing.
Yeah, and I know, and
that
we
was
keep
based
so
on my
much.
whole college
There's so
year.
much paper in our lives. We keep things, and then suddenly we're like, I remember this, and I don't know where it is when I need it. At the moment, I need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Danielle, did you have a question
Like,
or
at some point,
before you want to ask the last question?
I think most of what I was thinking was covered, to be honest with you. Well, no, I do. I don't think you covered this, so I'll ask. And if you did, I'm sorry, and I'm forgive me. But she asked, no, KaNikki, earlier you asked about like the things you are, most proud of now, and you have an amazing list of things to accomplishments to be, super proud of. What's next on your list?
What's
Like,
next?
what do you want to do? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Like
What's the next
you
thing?
become the professor, you raise the kids,
Yeah.
you've become the poet laureate. What's the next big thing on the list?
Well, the next things, some of them or most of them have to do with this year of poetry projects for the Poet Laureate Fellowship and position. So I've started talking with some people who are able to, I'm hoping, who are able to have a statewide wide reach. And I want to do something in terms of public poetry that addresses these ideas of climate change and our experiences in our own communities on the ground of all of these anxieties for a world that we can live in because of the ways in which our environment is rapidly being degraded. The natural environment primarily being degraded and being burned or uh, polluted or disappearing and being swallowed up into corporate manifestations that don't really support the kind of life that we think will be tenable for us and for our children. I mean, I think of my 4-year-old grandson and I'm like, what kind of a world are we leaving for kids like him? So that's one of the things I'm looking to do. And when I won that prize in the UK, the Resurgence Prize, which they described as the first or largest eco poetry prize or award in the world to bring more attention to these themes, I realized I've always been writing about our relationship to the world, our relationship to nature, even before I was aware of the word eco poetry or eco poetics or environmental poetry, because I come from a culture in which all of these connections that we have to the world are a natural part of how we look at life. Like when I was growing up, people would tell me, if you're out walking at night and you come across like a part of the environment or the neighborhood where you haven't really walked before, and there are all these bushes and all these vegetation that you don't know, just even in your head, like say hi to the spirits of the place. I'm here and I mean you no harm. I'm just passing through, something like that.
Oh wow!
Animistic connection to the world and to the environment, and a sort of respect for the world, that you are not the most important creature in this environment. You're only right.
Gotcha. I'm gonna have to take on. I'm gonna adopt that.
I agree. I feel that's going to be a part of my new.
Oh yeah, it will for you. You've turned into quite the plant lady, gardener.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm not a good gardener, actually.
No, she's talking about me. I do the
Oh,
most.
Yeah.
You. Yes.
Yeah,
you.
that's you.
Well, thank you also to Miko for saying that. Thank you for being here,
Thank you,
everyone.
Mika. So Danielle's gonna ask us the last question of the night,
and I'm looking forward to the answer to this. So no, everybody always gets tripped up and they think about it, and then they're like, wait a minute, and then one more, and then one more. Okay, the last question is always the same, which is, now that you've been on the show, who do you think we should bring on as a guest?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot right now.
Yes, let me remind you of our
We take suggestions because we have a running list, and but we don't know everybody. And sometimes there's people that we should know that aren't on our radars yet. So we take suggestions.
Always. Here are our platforms again. We have art plus therapy. We have let's talk about the book, and let's talk about the book can be like let's talk about the ... It could be other type of art as well.
Right.
Mine is poets and platforms that we're on, and then Simply Sherry has From Behind the Microphone, where we get to know more about the artists, because poets are people too.
Yes. Yes.
So you're talking also to visual artists, not
Yes.
just
We have visual artists. We've had a comedian on here. We've had singers.
Yep.
Guitarist. Music
We've
production.
had guitarists. Yes.
And they are from all over, or are
all
they
over?
All over.
Anywhere. As long as we can schedule them to get on this show, they're fair game.
And they don't have to be all poets, or do they have to be poets? Because
No, we've had she started as a poet, but when she came onto the show, she was a novel writer. We had her on as a novel writer.
We had someone we had a novel writer. We had we had an erotic fiction writer. We've had, like I said, we've had a comedian who started off doing poems and was a comedian.
Next month we'll have a poet. She started off as a poet and is now a makeup artist.
Right. Yes.
Oh.
That's next month.
Yes. Is that who I think it is?
Yes.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Well, I don't know. I'm just looking at the books right here beside me. There's so many. It's so hard to pick just one, and you know it's really hard to be put on the spot for just one name.
No, you can name
as many people as you want. We have a whole running list.
Okay. Well, right now though, for nonfiction, a wonderful nonfiction writer, her memoir, The Body Papers, came out not too long ago. Her name is Grace Talusan. And
I love the name of the book.
Yeah, The Body Papers. Let me grab it.
The Body Papers.
The Body Papers.
We all just wrote that down.
Nice.
Yeah, we really all did just write that down.
Yeah, we write that down.
Yeah.
That's a dope name.
That is.
I have so many others, but can I send you a list?
Yes, everybody does that too. It's like, can we send a list? Yes.
Yeah, that's why I said this is why I said this becomes a problem, because people start thinking of stuff after the fact. And I was like, yeah, send us a list, please.
This is gonna sound like nepotism, but one of my daughters has a book coming out from Alice James in 23, and if you want to talk to her, I guess she could talk to you about poetry too.
Yes.
Do it. Just link us.
Link us for it.
I will. I'll send you a whole list of different people.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, first off, again, everyone in the chat, however you can, please show some love to our feature tonight, Luisa IGloria. I apologize. I think I got it right.
Yes. Thank you so much.
This was an amazing conversation. I'm so happy that you were here this evening.
And I can tell you have so much fun doing this show, and thank you for doing it. Keep doing it. Hope a lot of people support you. This is so important to get people together and to let people know about what we are doing and who is doing great stuff in the community. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
We will be back next week, everyone. If this is your first time listening to us or the first time on our channels, every week, 1, 2, 3, 4, each of us pick a week, have a week, and we do an interview. On the rare month where there are 5 Sundays, if you want to get a taste of all of our interviews, come back next week. It is our quarterly roundtable interview, and I'm going to drum roll since KaNikki arranged it, let y'all know who our feature is.
It is Georgia Me!
Yes!
Tamika Harper, Georgia Me, who has an entire festival named after her. She's a poet out of Georgia, and she has the Tamika Festival every single year. It's been going on for at least a decade now. So come back, and that's what a huge platform this child has. So she's been on HBO and she's been nominated for Grammys and things. So yes, definitely come back next week to see her.
So everyone, please, and you already got my little bit of tease for next month. Again, that's going to be in the middle of the month. So I will see you all. So we will see you all here next Sunday. Please stay safe, wash your hands, stay well. Remember, COVID is not the only thing running out in these streets right now. So please stay safe.
Nah.
And yes, so we will see you all next week. And good night.
Good night.
Good night.